Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do a uranium daily technical analysis update. Give you guys what my opinion is. I kind of see a lot of oscillating around some resistance lines. Some look like they may pull back some look like they may not. They may go sideways longer. But I'll show you what we're looking at in the charts. And again, this is just my financial opinion. Please don't use it as advice. Here we go. So here comes my opinion. So here's uranium. We got the physical price. It's just been dancing along this area up here. Not really up, not really down, but it's leaving the door open for the sellers to come in here and push it a little bit lower, potentially, maybe. Looking at Uranium from a weekly candlestick basis, you draw the line in here. And we've been bouncing off this resistance line, moving on sideways. We come back up, bounce off of it. We may just ride this line a little longer, or maybe we pull back a little bit and put a little bounce off of it. Looking at the daily charts, it doesn't look bad. It's almost like a cup and handle. We come in, cup, handle. Let's see what tomorrow brings us. I mean, we're coiled up right at a tip here, and buyers can push this higher if they want to tomorrow. Very well could, and Camco doesn't look too bad. It's a lot of really small candlesticks moving sideways at this, we'll call it, equalization point between the buyers and the sellers. We're not really going much of anywhere, and I don't see any clear direction. And next gen, I mean, sellers put in a bearish engulfing here, came back up. It's not like the buyers are pushing this higher. I mean, we could have the sellers come in here and push a little bit lower as well. We're kind of at that inflection point where the buyers equal the sellers, and it could break either way. And we're seeing that in all these companies. And Fission doesn't look too bad. Kind of just sideways movement here. Sellers aren't laying any big fat candlesticks, and the buyers aren't either. Sky Harbor, we have a little bearish piercing here. A little bit of a bearish engulfing. This could head a little bit lower, but I would say more than likely sideways. Like to see the buyers step in here, push this stuff higher. Alaska, a little bit more selling pressure here. That ended kind of somewhat strong. We could see a little bit of a pullback. I don't think it's going to be anything major. Same with standard uranium. And looking at standard uranium, if I were to back out, I've got this here. I kind of drew this in here. Here's a line going through there. We've been going up. We broke to the upside, came up, pulled back, and then you can see this thing. I could see it do like a pattern like that. And guys, I could be off. I'm just kind of throwing a pattern in there. But what I'm looking at is a little bit of a bearish engulfing where we could head lower, maybe, and develop that pattern. Base load's got a bearish engulfing. There's a couple through here. We could head a little bit lower before moving higher, just from the technical part. Pier point doesn't look too bad to move on higher based off of this candlestick right here and this kind of bullish engulfing pattern. Fission's looking a little bit tired up here. We keep running into sellers and then selling back off, sell back off. We may have another down day tomorrow, but it looks like the sellers aren't pushing it down as far. So I'm going to say sideways to lower, just a little bit lower, or sideways movement before moving on up. Asian court looks okay, broke the downtrend here, coming on up, and we're just cycling sideways. Looks like we're putting in a pattern here. Here's the pattern that I'm seeing. We've got this guy, and then we can throw this guy here, and that's the pattern that I'm seeing. So we kind of broke out of this downtrend line here, and we're cycling, and we could break it at some point soon. UEX, that's a bearish engulfing, which means we could head a little bit lower, sideways to lower, before breaking out of this. But this could also be a cup and handle pattern, if we can break. Standard uranium, I already talked about that one. UU. Man. Small little down day, or up day, I mean, today. Throw in this trend line here. Looks something like that. And we're not necessarily compressing up too much into a corner. We just got to break to the upside here. That's what I'm looking for. We're compressing up against this resistance line. UEC looks like it might be doing the same thing. Looks like we broke out. UEC doesn't look bad at all. Doesn't look bad at all. So I think we could potentially move on up if the buyers choose to move this higher here. We broke out of this resistance line. Could be, it's not really could be a cup and handle pattern breaking. So that doesn't look bad. URG, it's just the battle between the buyers and sellers all in these areas. They're just going back and forth. I don't really see too much. UROI looks not too bad. I mean, I don't like seeing I wish this was a smaller down day today. Then I would say it's most likely going up. But the sellers, I mean, they're still there. That's why they had a little bit of a down day today. On core energy, big buying pressure, small selling pressure. We just got to see the buyer step in and push it on up. Doesn't look too bad. Bannerman, and some of these, I mean, they're getting funky because what's happening is they're cutting through some of these lines that I'm seeing. I mean, that one doesn't look bad at all. We're still above this support resistance line. So it's resistance coming up, support coming back. So that looks good. Deep yellow still above its lows, this low here. So this still looks good, but it's not great having a 5.4% down day where it's a bearish engulfing pattern, which we could head a little bit lower. And what I think is going to happen, I'm going to guess here, is we're going to kind of maybe develop a pattern that looks something like this. And we kind of come through here and try to break out. So it's a kind of a pennant formation here. Kind of a flag pattern. That's most likely what's happening. And Forces Metals is doing the same thing. You can kind of see we entered this. We're coming down here. We've got some support through here. So we're probably doing like a flag pattern. Goviax. Higher high. We got the low breaking through here. This is a tough one to read because the sellers aren't pushing this thing down, but the buyers aren't in there pushing it higher either. We're just moving sideways, consolidating almost at this little section here. I'm trying to see, we've got this kind of line going up here. Very small, and I don't like steep lines. Maybe it's a funky looking little chart here. That's what it is. Now, I don't have much there. Global Atomic, again, got a bearish engulfing pattern here. Two little small down or up days. I think we're going to head lower, probably, just by looking at the chart candlestick patterns right here. Kier, let me see if we can see a kind of a pattern here. Man, it's like right there. We're trying to break through it. We're coming back down. I don't know where this one's going. I'd like to see this line hold, this support line. National, this is Kazatomprom. Just moving on sideways. I don't see any clear direction. We do have big buying pressure, small selling pressure. But the longer you stay up here, you're giving the opportunity for the sellers to sell it off. And some of these days, they do look big, like this down day here and today. I mean, we could have a little bit of a pullback in some of these companies. Kind of a mixed, split outlook. So there's a lot of support and resistance here. You kind of come through this area, it cuts everything in half there. Kind of at the highs there. Just do this. Somewhere in there. It's got all that resistance coming through here. Lotus Resources sold off today, but still looks okay. I mean, I don't like all these gaps in here. It's going to fill some of these gaps, I think. And it could head lower here. It could. Velour metals, I mean, if I were to look at this, probably sideways to a pullback. We've got lots of sellers up here with the candlestick wicks at the top. When you have a wick at the top like this, it usually likes to pull back a little bit. So maybe we'll pull back to 32 cents or something. Here's Paladin Energy. This one doesn't look too bad, but it does look like we're almost going to pull, break to the down, like almost an ascending type wedge where we could break to the downside a little bit here, potentially. Blue Sky Uranium, big sell-off down day there. I don't see the buyers pushing it higher. I think we could still see a little bit more sell-off, sideways to sell-off. So it's a mixed bag, guys. This one's they're getting hard to read right now. At least these types of setups. If I were to take an overall guess, and this is just guessing. That's all you can do. It's you got a footprint that the buyers and sellers left. Sometimes the footprints are pretty clear. Sometimes they're not as clear. To me, we're up against this resistance. The buyers are trying to smack through it. There's still sellers there. The sellers sometimes sell these things off a little bit, and that's what we're seeing in the candlesticks. We're getting some bigger down days. They're selling it off. We're trying to break through this resistance as we're smacking up against it. Are the sellers going to pull it, sell it and pull it back off that resistance line a little bit? We could pull back here. Or are the buyers going to step in and hit up against that resistance line and see if we can break through it? It's a battle between the buyers and the sellers at this resistance line of URNM. That's really what I'm looking at. And sometimes it gets hard to read because you're right at that resistance. And all I'm looking at are candlestick patterns at this point. You're seeing selling pressure in relationship to buying pressure and what's going to overpower what. And with the kind of in the back pocket, you've got these ETFs that have all this money and inflows and stuff where money could flow in here at any point and just blow right through that resistance line. So I'm really hesitant to say that we're going to have necessarily a pullback, but I'm hesitant to say that we're just going to blow through the resistance line. So you get in this point because obviously you have people watching this and I don't want to misguide them in any way. So it's very difficult to get a good reading here on the direction of which way we're going. If I were to lean one side to the other, I think we're probably going to get a little bit of a pullback, more so than breaking through resistance. That's kind of the side I'm leaning on. If you guys like this content, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.